hello everybody. Welcome to the close. Sorry about that start. A little bit later than we expected. But yeah, we're coming right into the zone. So 15,000, very close to that point. Let's have a quick look here at the 5-minute chart on the Nasdaq. So as we theorized yesterday, we pretty much have gotten to around the area in the green box zone. So that's our 15,000, where we expect some problems to happen. This is obviously coming into the close, coming into a big rally off the last couple of days. And I've got some interesting stats to share with you that I'll also be putting in today's video. And this is thanks to the community in general, in terms of people providing these types of stats. So let me just quickly scroll over here. I should have it somewhere in these areas. I think I've got it around there, but I'll get it in a second. So whenever we have strength coming into the end of the month, so this is things like January, if we have strength coming into the back end of January, usually those last 2 days, you get those kind of big 4-5% moves in terms of pickup in the markets. It doesn't necessarily bode that well for the February period. The other thing is when we have weakness in January and we end up being negative for the month, it does tend to spill over into Feb. So a lot of the stats actually also back up our thought processes of potential weakness coming back into the market. Now, everyone's feeling the FOMO. I can see a few comments here coming in. Buy the dip works every single time. That's what they say. And then Jin says here, buy the dip and buy the deeper dip. Well, technically, yes, you are correct. So if you buy the dip and you're mostly buying, these kind of 15-10% dips that sometimes happen, you generally be correct. It's hard to be very wrong because we know the markets are built towards the bull side. Everyone goes bearish. Everyone calls 50% crashes. It's statistically quite rare for that to happen. So 15,000, we've kind of reached very close to it. I mean, give or take 20 points. What do you want? Do you want the perfect level? Do you want the kind of zone where it is right now? So what do we expect in the next session? Well, let's talk about this. So we've got 19 minutes coming in. We're going to probably close right around here. If we start to see sell-off here, it kind of really proves one of the concepts that we've got, which is this is one of the problem zones. But let's have a look at the S&P 500 because that's one that really is important that it kind of hits around this 20 moving average. And I think the problem, what we've got a little bit, is that we're just off it. So if we think here percentage-wise, movement from here to here is about 0.34%. We haven't quite hit 45.50. We've got a lot of calls floating on there. I think we probably should bring up the Yahoo options to get a bit of an idea of where these calls are at right now, because depending on how many people have opened today will also help us get a bit of an idea of whether we should be freaking out or not. Let's just quickly do that now. So we'll go up Yahoo. We'll bring up the Microsoft, I guess. SPY. Options. Calls. We want fourth. Scroll down through here. Let's have a look at how many extras have come through. So we've got 16,987 open interest here. 460, as we expected, continues to strike up. And for some reason, this 467 is quite big. So 42,000 here. And around the 450 call level is 17,000. So let's just quickly check the Twitter from yesterday. So obviously our Twitter over here, follow us at FX Evolution if you're interested. So you can see here it was 40,000, it's gone up marginally. And this one's gone up marginally as well in terms of strikes. 457, 14,000. Let's go back over to that. So 15,000 and bit. So there's been a decent amount of calls. Not what I would call an insane amount of calls opened. It may be the put side still keeps getting hammered by a lot of people thinking the market's going down. Unfortunately, if that's what's occurring, the market has less likelihood of actually dropping as much. But we still have a significant portion of calls sitting around that 460, and the 455 has gone up slightly as well. So all of these, if you notice, there's a lot more calls to this upside, which kind of puts what I believe could be a ceiling in the markets right now for the week. So for the week, I think we're getting very close to the ceiling for the SPY, just because this is where you have a huge amount of open interest that's starting to really become profitable for them to close it underneath that zone. So US 500 at this stage does look like it's finding kind of a resistance-ish level. I think this is where we expect it to happen. It's going to maybe hit that weekly 20, and I just don't see how it could be rallying for so many days in a row and continue to rally, 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 rally. I mean, it happens, but yeah, that's one of those big problems. Snoozer says max pain for tomorrow is 445. Yeah. So what's the max pain snoozer for the Friday session? I can bring it up if I want to, I guess. Let's have a look. Max pain Friday. If you want to find these kind of websites, you can literally just search. Most people, a few of these companies like Swaggy Stocks and even just Max Pain itself, max-pain.com, generally does have some pretty good stuff. I'll use the Swaggy one. Okay, so Max Pain this week, open interest. Seems to be sitting. Let's go to the 4th. 448. So there we go. So 448 is basically where the perfect level between the options would be. So it kind of, again, is the market above that? Yes. This is for the 4th expiration. Let's actually go to the third week and see where that is. 455. So a lot kind of still floating down. Overall, a lot of puts in the market. You can kind of see that heavy leaning here later on in the month towards the puts. That's pretty important for us to always check as well. When we have a heavy lean like this towards the puts later on, you can see how scared people got. And we do have some kind of flaw in this market. So there's just too many puts sitting down here. Look at all those 370s, 380s. Obviously, there's people sitting even lower. But with the 4th, if we think about it, starting to lean towards the calls. See how there's more calls here? Puts leaning a little bit differently. 450-ish is where 448 is where that max pain is. And for the next day, somebody mentioned 445. Now, it doesn't always happen. That's why we don't always use it. You only use it when you're hitting a key technical resistance and you want to get a bit of an idea of whether there is a huge lean towards calls or huge lean towards puts. So the market's coming in to a very big key zone. We know this. It's there. I think we've got to pay attention to it. And I'm going to put a poll into the system here. Let's see what you think. Let's see if you notice the idea or the concept of, what the market's going to do next. So let's see what people think. Do you think it's going bullish or bearish into the close of the week here? Let's get it done. All right, cool. We've put the poll in. Vote for it. We've got a member for 10 months, Muhammad Al-Masari, says here, hey, Tom, thanks for all you do. No worries, man. I noticed you measure the double bottoms channel SPX formed. It proves to 4,600 as the price target, so it makes sense. Yeah, so that's correct. So if you think about the double bottom or the really good accumulation base, and by the way, I don't see why you shouldn't have bought this. I think that if you saw this and you missed it, you've really got to rethink the way you feel about markets and maybe some of the sentiment biases that you have, because this is a very, very, very solid base. Okay. It's the type of base that you do look for. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to be sitting there going, remember, you're a trader and an investor. If you feel like the market is bearish longer term and you have a strong bias towards that for whatever reason, well, why can't you still day trade? If you buy it here, where's your stop loss got to be? Underneath the last low or under here. Now, in most cases, you're just going to go underneath the last low. You have a stop loss. Remember, every trader has to have an entry, a stop loss, and a take profit. If you take trades without a stop loss, you're not trading, you're investing. Just remember that. Stop losses are an essential part of trading because basically you've got this plan and that plan is built around that concept. So the idea that you've got there is that you basically take the base here and then that pressures you into around a 4,600 level, which totally makes sense. The reason that I'm kind of going with this 45.50 is because 45.50 hits with the 15,000 on the NAS. And while it might overshoot to this level, which is very possible, I'm happy with that kind of gain. 2 days of day trade. What have you got now? You've got a percentage increase on the markets here from the trigger, about 2.34. On the Nasdaq, you get about 3-4%. So you're getting some really nice gains. But yeah, that's a great base and exactly what you'd be looking for. Thanks, Mohammed, and thank you for the support here. All right, let's now go to bring up some of the other things we'll want to do. So we want to bring in our pivots. We'll just use CPR pivot here. We'll go to the SPX. Now, whenever you add these pivots, just remember there's so many pivots that suddenly rock up and you're like, well, which one am I meant to use? What am I meant to do here with the pivots? Well, what you're meant to do is get rid of every single damn thing except for the monthly pivots. Out of here. Get out of here. And then you can see where the new ones open up. So new pivots have opened around quite a lot higher, it looks like. Let's have a look here. Where are we? Where's our central? So we've got our new pivots finally appearing. For some reason I don't know my central ones, it looks like, but they'll be around this price as well. So we're going to be hitting the central pivot, and we've got monthly. Is it monthly? Yeah, monthly S1 sitting around 4,200. Cool. That's going to be interesting. We'll have central pivots in this area here, which is exactly where we expect that resistance to come back in. And markets like to kind of hit that level. And we'll have an R1 sitting right on the peak of 4,800. So very interesting zones here opening up for these pivots. This 4,200 pivot is a very interesting one because that's exactly where you expect the market to kind of have some problems. And that would be where, even if it does dip, many people will buy this because it was the previous low. Also interesting to see that the lowest, or the second S2, is now opening around 3,900, which would be the worst case scenario. I don't think that's going to happen, but that'd be the worst case scenario. So yeah, S&P 500 coming into a key zone. Remember, we've probably only theorized there's around 50 points left here. The 20 moving average on the weekly should be something you're looking at. And yeah, new pivots are opening up, which is good to see. So that's exactly what we want to see here. Somebody said US 100 broke out. I don't think it's broken out. It's just kind of just chilling on its own. So here it is. You can see the new central pivots sitting on the 15,000. Remember, the theory is 45.50. The SPX is the key zone here. So it's 45.50 to 4,600. Now, if we go to 4,600 on the SPX, this will breach that zone. So I think we need to be aware that that is very possible. We're not trying to guarantee where it turns around. We're looking at these areas and we're saying, okay, do we have signs towards weakness in the next trading session? So let's say we close here. Let's just say we theoretically take some profit off, descale, whatever our plan is. We don't just instantly short. That's dumb. That's what a noob would do. Are you a noob? I hope not. The way you want to do it is you want to break down the change of trend. Now, you can do that on small time frames, lightning bolts, the peak, which is the top, the trough, the lower peak, the lower trough. See that turnaround story. Some people use double tops. You could use a head and shoulders if it formed. Unlikely to have formed here. Might be some kind of lower time frame Wyckoff as well, some kind of channeling pattern. This is just where we expect it to kind of hover and gravitate to. It's the first take profit level for traders that have been in through the last couple of sessions. Now, some other interesting things that have happened here today is Tesla is down. It's having a cooler on a day that was exceptional in the previous day. So it's not really surprising to see this type of thing occur. And it is certainly what's happening right now. But I think also we need to go into COIFIN and we need to understand whether all of the sectors are moving in unison, or is this not a broad-based buy? So let's go to the daily and find out where our sectors are at. So you can get this at Coifin. I'm not sponsored by them. I just think they're pretty good. So here are the sectors for the session. And you'll notice it's a little bit of a different trend than previous trend. So energy is up 3.62%. Wow. Smiley face for energy traders. XLB 1.72. So materials have really started to go up here. IBB, the biotech industry. Jets, one that we've been looking at recently. Financials. So it's not the general, what everybody here likes, which is the technology and the semiconductors as much that are pushing the markets. It's the overall idea that it's just really other sectors that have been improving here. TAN, big move yesterday, slowed down here today, and utilities. So it's not that what I would be more concerned of is if we had kind of like near the end of the day, maybe like a utilities or a consumer staple or something like that being one of the better performers, because that would show us that the Wall Street is really moving towards this defensive component. And that's not what we really want. Thanks so much to the almost 700 people that are viewing right now. Appreciate it. We're coming 5 minutes into the close, and we've got the S&P 500 reaching a really nice zone. It's about to tap that 45.50 area. So right into the close, right on the zone. Let's just have a look at that weekly 20 again. Oh, fantastic. So it's so close now. So we've got 46 is the best case here and 45.50. Just like in yesterday's video, these are the kind of levels that we expect to hit. And this is really good here. Nadir says Coifin's amazing for the info. Certainly is. And Durgesh says nice ramp into the close. Yeah, it's good. And Gary Saini says, I don't short unless the stars aligned. The cleanest TA ever. Even then, Issa, no for me. Issa. Oh, man. Jar Jar Binks. I'm not sure if we're going to go to the Jar Jar Binks anymore. Yeah. So I think that's very important here. We've got this idea that, yes, it's coming into a zone of interest. If you have trade investments, are you going to sell here? Well, no. They're investments. They have a much bigger plan. If you have day trades, you certainly could be descaling yourself in these positions. And that's just because, again, it's entering into your box area. So great close here, 45.50. We're getting towards where we think. Let's go through some of these stocks. So again, another day of hyper stocks doing well in general. How's the ARK fund going today? I guess not as well because of Tesla, but still 2.29, 2.09. Square now sitting at 127. So from its lows of almost $100, that's almost up 27% now. I mean, it'd be about 25%, wouldn't it? So 25.86% up. Wow. Few good signs here on the hyper stocks that maybe we do have a base in. And even if we do have a second dip down, that might have been the lows with that kind of trend line on the way down here for something like Square. You've also got that double bottom on the smaller time frames. And probably that is the real teller. See how we have the daily 20 moving average. It's that last kind of sign that it hasn't fully recovered yet. We've seen rallies like this to the daily 20, but then they've continuously been belted or met by selling pressure. So a lot of these hyper stocks are starting to look really great. Obviously, some people have taken portions in them, but I don't blame them at certain prices there. When we hit the 50 exponential moving average, it was hard not to take a few of them. But yeah, just not quite through there yet. I mean, even things like DKNG, very similar, suddenly breaching those bases. Yeah. Leslie says Tesla had a massive recall. That's why they dropped today. Yeah, I saw that. It was about 40, was it 50,000 cars or was it even more? Was it 500,000? I'm not sure. It was 50,000. Ralph said, I had Netflix at $3.80 2 days ago, got cold feet and sold for $3 of profit. Ooh, do I dare bring that up for you? I guess I will. I always put Netflix in as its right code. Let's type it. I always do that. I know it's NFLX, but I always put Netflix. Just type it anyway. Probably a good thing if you do that. So another good ramp here, 7.24%. And this is just another case of the market showing a level that makes sense for potential some weakness. Great rally Good base. I understand why people are buying it here. I don't blame them. Get that rally, hit the 20 moving average, hit the previous supports. See how so many stocks are starting to show very similar things? They've all rallied into very key zones. Support becomes resistance, 20 moving average. This is happening through many, many stocks in the market right now. And I think that's why, when you're looking at the US 500, the culmination of them all, you can get that idea that maybe we're hitting. So 1 minute here till the close, US 500 right into the resistance, certainly an area of interest. Tesla, as we saw with the recall, somebody would have said 52,000 cars. Okay, I don't think that will hurt long term, but certainly a little bit crazy there. Harsh says T-Doc broke the daily 20. Yep, certainly there. And Antonio says, I bought Netflix at 382. I'm still in. Not bad buy there. Actually, a very good trigger point. Let's have a look at that on the 15-minute. Okay, so personally for me, probably would have been trying to buy it around this level, but I can see why you might have bought 382, little double bottom within the overall range, seeing that improvement, get in here at the close, get that massive gap through. My trade of choice was Tesla in the previous day. This day, just hold things through to their completions. Anyone trade shop made some coin past few days? Yeah, I think a lot of people will be in this. Lou Jr. says, ha ha ha, Tesla recall is nothing more than an over-the-air software update. Oh, whatever. Isn't that just ridiculous? That's not really going to do anything there. Random dude says more downside to come. Too many negative catalysts in macro right now. I've been shorting since last November. Took 30% off the table, but I definitely expect more correction. Well, we're at the area where it has to happen. Next 50 points, you would think the markets turn around. So let's just quickly look at some of these commodities and things. We've just seen the market close. The US market's closed. Slight dip near the end there. US 500 now 45.43, and the US 100 just on 15,006. US oil futures continue to be fairly strong. So we saw that big rally here from the bottom down. Kind of goes down and then goes straight back up. 92 still could be in for the US oil. And I think a lot of people will hate this at the Bowser. So don't blame me. But unfortunately, I think your petrol might get even more expensive over the next couple of weeks. VIX sitting at 22.17. So a lot of drop off there. Getting to the point where if the bears are going to come back, they need to do it at this point. So that's going to be pretty important. And we've got Muhammad Al Masari, AED, $25. Thank you so much. Felt like showing you some appreciation. Appreciate that, man. Might as well ask what you think of natural gas. Is that still a valid double bottom? And is today's close bullish? All right, let's have a look at natural gas. It's been a very aggressive trade both ways. And I think for anyone that's trying to get into natural gas, just remember you need to go back to the history and understand that natural gas tends to have these supply chain shortages. It gets pumpy and then it gets dumpy. In some ways, it's like a penny stock where it has these massive, massive ramps on it. And this is not the first time it's ever happened. I mean, you can see the ramps in natural gas. Remember, look at the left-hand side, get a bit of an understanding of what the market has done before. Now, if you're a bull in natural gas, I think you probably would have been triggering buys all over here. So, yeah, I'm not going to say you would have got the best price. I mean, that area here for me was the trigger buy. And then what happened, because you got this great base. I mean, it was a fantastic base. And then what happened is it went a little bit lower. That's going to happen sometimes on trades. Obviously, with something like this, your targets are at least up to here, if not even higher. And then it's turned around and it's gone higher and it's sitting currently at your first resistance. So I think the problem with natural gas is you're saying it's at a double bottom like this. My thought would be that was the base. When it breached, you probably would have triggered. When it came down, you would have been fully invested. And of course, at that point, a couple of days of sadness and then some really nice days of gain. You're not always going to get the perfect price when you use patterns. But yeah, that's your trigger points. I mean, for my trading system, from the way that I would do things, that's where I'd be triggering up. I'm not going to be triggering this low. It's just the reality of the situation. We're at a resistance. If you're wanting to get into this type of big ramping kind of natural gas, then you're waiting for it to just really follow through. So it gets through the previous support, which becomes resistance. And then obviously next stop is going to be around that 550. So there could be a day trade in here where you place stops underneath here and travel up for that 50-cent gain. Thank you very much for the support. Also got Darren Jones, $10. Tom, can you please show us the put and call walls of the triple Q? Yeah, I can bring that up. You can just do it yourself whenever you want to use maybe something like Yahoo Options. You can bring it up if you want to. So here's triple Q. You can see here you want to go February 4th. This should be for today's date. Just making sure. Let's refresh that for a second. There we go. Now we're on February 4th. I think we might have been on the wrong one before. You got to check that one. All right. So you're just looking for those big outlier numbers. So you've obviously got about 26,000 here at 365. Let's just bring up QQQ, get the current price for it so everyone knows what we're doing. So QQQ, 366 currently. So at 365, sitting around 26,000. And then are there any other really large call levels? Maybe around that 372. There's not a huge amount of calls other than just right where it is right now for the expiration. And again, that kind of proves that 15,000 target on the main Nasdaq, 365. You can see why that could be the problematic zone for the call side. Now we go down to the puts. Where are the bigger strike levels? Got a big strike level at 340, 20,000. And not very much competing at around this 365. See how it'd be much more profitable to close the week underneath 365 because you're not paying out that many puts and you're only really starting to pay out puts when you get under 355 for the end of the week. So 355, 350, but they're nowhere near as big as the 360. So we scroll back up here and you'll just notice there's a lot more, 26,000 sitting at that 365. So thank you very much for the donation. They're the kind of levels, and that's what I would do in the future if you don't have other tools like the community, etc. Google up 3%. Yeah. So we have the earnings coming out. I'll just quickly bring up that. I kind of expected that one to be positive. Google is phenomenal at the moment. It's just got really good ability to make money. YouTube, Google ads, money moving away from traditional media. There's still room for the ads to grow. The earnings per share would have been pretty nice. So post market here, 2%. I'm fairly bullish on this stock still. I think it's actually, dare I say it, fairly to underpriced. I know that sounds crazy. And Burak just came out and says Google stock split 20-1. Oh, they'll like that. Remember when that happened for Apple? Although it was moving off other things, stock splits get everybody excited. So that's a pretty big one here. 28.75. The stock market itself has gone up off the news. Obviously, they like Google because it's such a big component. So 15,043 here for the NAS. Koa says, here comes the rip. And Gary Sony says, finally. Yeah, that's a 20-1 split is a fairly big, fairly big thing here. Franklin says, what does the PE chart say on Alphabet, Tom? It's quite good, man. It's quite good. If you actually look at Alphabet, and you bring up your standard kind of PE ratio over time, it's cheap. It hasn't really spiked that much from its previous valuations. In fact, it's kind of standardly been sitting around the same point. And yet I would argue it's growing at a rate that's higher than anything else. And this is partly why it was one of my picks for 2020. Because remember, it just kind of sat round. The stock price didn't do anything. If you remember here, the stock price didn't do really anything until August, September, October period. And then you saw that ramp. It was actually an inefficiently priced stock. We didn't have earnings, admittedly. And I think this is what happened. It had been sideways for so long that no one believed they had growth. Then it had growth, and then the stock was like, "Oh, okay, yeah. They're actually growing." But yeah, very, very cheap. It's kind of like Meta as well. But I'm not as big a fan of Meta, but it is improving. Like Meta's getting away from the Facebook idea and starting to grow into their other businesses is good. But I've always liked Google, and I think that this is a phenomenal EPS curve. And obviously, I don't think it slows. I mean, a lot of people think things slow. Online advertising is unlikely to slow. It's actually going to accelerate. Now we need Amazon to follow in Google's footsteps. Yeah, that one I am less sure of. Something like Google is good. By the way, this is pretty cool if you consider what Amazon could do. I mean, this is going to move based on the earnings, but a lot of this hype at the moment is also based on the split. We know that splits, for some unknown reason nowadays, get everyone hyped up, especially the retail crowd. Retail loves splits. Remember the split on Nvidia? Remember the split on Apple? The split on Tesla gets people ramping really hard. And what could Amazon do to maybe get out of the doldrums? People have been calling for it for a long time. Anyone in the community know? What could Amazon do that might be a good idea if they want to push their share price? They could split. That's right. That's right. Harsh Terry and Turtle. They could split. And that would be a fairly large deal for them as well, because this stock is pretty annoying. And even Tesla, it's getting into territory of splitting again in the future because the options become very expensive. And especially with Tesla, it's always benefited splitting the stock down. Bezos never split the stock because he doesn't want normal people to buy it. Well, Bezos isn't the man anymore, is he? And Andrew says now Bezos is gone. Maybe, yeah. Tom's dismissal of the negative bias made my day. Which one? I still have negative bias on the market at these levels because it's hitting close to our zone. And in fact, this is cool because we just hit the weekly 20. Oh, so close. I still have, some negativity around here, but I'm not selling. I wouldn't sell my investments, and I certainly wouldn't be freaking out about this. I'm looking for the turnaround. Looking for the turnaround. And unless it happens, I'm not going to say it's going to happen because you don't. Well, I'm going to say it could happen, but I'm not going to trade it. It has to actually occur. So the story is here. Google. We have some other earnings coming in, but 7.16 story is stock split almost back to the previous peaks. Shows you why we did that analysis on the fundamentals on the top stocks, and this is of course the FANG or MANG or whatever you want to call them now, because the fundamentals proved that outside of maybe Apple, and I still think Apple is overpriced from a standard fundamental standpoint, Microsoft, Google, Meta, some of these platforms are not as expensive as people believe and not as overpriced and inefficient as people believe. Starbucks missed, doesn't surprise me. Has anyone been around long enough for me I think I probably didn't get the perfect price here, but I remember talking about Starbucks here into the reopening economy phase. And does anyone remember my philosophy on Starbucks? I don't like Starbucks coffee, by the way. I think it is okay. Anyway, my philosophy on Starbucks was this. They did so well because they were drive-in during COVID. And on top of that, I think they have drive-in. I'm not sure what they have in the US. But anyway, quick, easy walk in, get it. And at the same time, every poor little coffee shop was bust. Now what's happened is the economies have reopened and new coffee shops have opened, plus the old ones have opened, and they've taken part of their market share back again, which is certainly makes sense. Anyway, Starbucks missed $95 here, 3.81% down. Not great. Dash says, Tom, your philosophy on Starbucks is flawed because Melbourne has great coffee. Well, whether it was flawed or not, we talked about it here. It's now underneath. So I would say we're either correct and that happened or something else occurred. Starbucks is the only option in the USA. I know it's a big option. What about Dunkin'? I'm sure you have coffee stores in the US. There's no way. I've seen the YouTubers posting pictures of them eating breakfast with coffee. Tim Hortons coffee is so much better. Yeah. All right. Well, let's ask the community here. We got 700 people. 700 people. AMD Moons. All right. Let's have a look at AMD's results here. So Starbucks, just if you're in this type of stock, it's gotten underneath or around the support. So you need that to hold in the post. It's not really a great return. Go read the fundamentals if you're interested in this. But from the technical level, you now need to see it stabilize. There's no point in just buying here. You're only buying if you believe in the fundamentals at this stage. All right, let's chuck in AMD. $6.23%. Let's have a look at the futures here on the market. 15,100, 45.50 reached. Okay. So beats misses must be up there by now. Let's have a look. Beats miss reports. Yeah, beats sitting at 76%, 281 beats, miss report 87. Some notable big beats. Robinhood 25. Move since misses by 0.04 misses, and then move since 25.9% up. Pretty funny, yeah. That's probably one of the biggest ones. And Stride Inc., whatever that is, beats by 0.23. Move since the earnings has been 33.4%. So AMD here at 124. Again, strong earnings, $100. Anyone that took the dice on that, well done. Big resistance, big support, S3 as well on the monthly pivot. So a lot of great level there around that 100. You'd be pretty happy with yourself because you're up about 22%. Not as much as maybe the hypers, but these are the opportunities. And hopefully a few of you did not feel the kind of freak out that everyone else was feeling, because this is pretty good gains in a week. Not often you get 22% on a quality stock. Filled the gap. So that gap has now been filled. Doesn't change any of our opinions on the SPX, even though we have good earnings, even though everything's looking rosy and great right now. Still watch that 4550 to 4600 zone. And if we get turnaround stories, just be prepared a little bit for a double dip, because it doesn't change that we have March and we have economic figures coming out which could show inflation. And if they show inflation, then the market might be scared initially. PayPal tanking. Let's have a look. Ooh. Back all the way back down to 155. Is PayPal dead, or is it just resting its eyes? I might read the report, I guess, and find out. I assume they got hurt by not having the eBay partnership, which they haven't had for a long time, and just competition in the field. The whole fintech space is really beaten up at the moment. And a lot of it's just due to so much competition. I mean, you've got Stripe, you've got your PayPal, you've got your Square, your Shop probably being able to do their own things. Then you've got your Afterpay services, and then you've got whatever else you have. Their foray into crypto is probably also not going so well right now. Good question here. Well, a few ones. Has ARK developed a bottom? Yeah, I would say it certainly has developed a bottom. You can literally see the bottom here, just like the rest of the stock market. They're all developing bottoms. I mean, the bottom's technically found. From a technical perspective, if you were to come in and show some person that doesn't know much about technicals, they're going to say, I'm buying the stock market. And the reason is because they found the accumulation level, which was these kind of bases. And you can see on something like ARK, on something like any of these stocks, if you are buying these levels, you're generally doing pretty good. I would say with ARK though, 20 moving average daily is my second kind of thing. And this is why, even though the market is looking really great today and everyone's getting the FOMO back in, this is what markets do. They drop hard, they recover hard, they have a second kind of dip, and then they recover. It's foolish to always call 50% and 30% drops, because on average, drops of about 15%, and we saw an average drop here. But to say bumpy ride into March is probably not foolish. Stats back that up. What about PLTR? Let's have a look at PLTR. That's really low. 14.20. This stock, I've never got it, but I can't say I know the fundamentals. I would only trade this fundamentally. I would not trade it technically. It doesn't like technicals. Like all of these hypers, long leg doji, bullish close above that would be one of your first big signals here for PLTR. Nice rally, 45.51 off the back of Google. Anyone that's coming in here, good earnings split, all of those things. We just tapped in the futures, in the post futures market, 3,000. Someone asked the question, what are the point of futures? What's the point of futures? Well, one of the big points of futures is that you can trade outside of market hours. It's a money-making scheme. If you can create large amounts of hours, then you get money. Really. I mean, that's the main point. It gives you flexibility to trade. I mean, you shouldn't hate on futures. Futures are a good kind of market there. Michael H says $4.99. Hello, Tom. Thoughts on XLV right now? Is it in value territory or try cure for 3x bull intensive healthcare? Yeah, so I think that all of these healthcare stocks have taken a little bit of a dip because of the second wave of this Omicron thing. And really what that's done is put pressure on hospitals, stopped elective surgeries, and stopped partly what the healthcare industry is, which is recovering. And yes, it's higher than where it was. So it's 104. It's held up pretty well at 131. But this tends to be one of those sectors that does have that mid-cycle gains. Is it good price still? It's kind of similar to the market. There's your closure above. Great support here on the left-hand side. Broken past that support, becoming a resistance area. So you'd have to think, yes, it's looking okay. And then you ask whether the Cure 3X is any good. And I would probably go with my favorite sector in the healthcare industry is probably the bio now, because it's so belted. It's so beaten down. So here is the 3X. There's no problem with doing this. It's just, remember, it's a 3X leverage sector fund. So if you take this, it's a lot more swings. I mean, today didn't look like much of a swing, but in general, they look exactly the same. So is the improvement there? Yes. Did we probably see the base here? Yes, you would think so. Pretty nice base, pretty good gain. Thank you. PayPal, EPS 1.11. 6.92 versus 6.9. So really slowing down now. Darren Jones, $20. Tom, I see a tweet from 6 minutes ago saying Google will split 20 to 1. Is this real? Is Google really splitting? Yeah, Darren, we just found that out. Yep, they're splitting. And we are seeing it in the post market here, 6.76%. We just hit 3,000. So I should tweet about it splitting. Maybe I will. Eli says futures are where it's at for day trading, in my opinion. Well, the good thing about futures is it allows you also to trade after the close. So you can see the close, get the confirmation that you need, and then trade it. Fantastic. It also allows you to have that flexibility that sometimes during the closed markets, you can see like massive rallies to your resistance on something like the S&P 500. And then you can actually take out your order when it hits your target level. And then by the time it's opened, it's here. So some big switches can happen during that period. And it's certainly there. Thank you very much, Darren. Appreciate your support, by the way. I should give a clap to you for that very, very generous donation. So thanks. Eric Kempton says, this feels like a bull trap. Don't see a V recovery here. Yeah. But after today, especially after that close, the split, people are really going to be feeling the FOMO. And realistically, we created a bear trap video, around the Fed. And literally, we're pretty much, we think this level is probably the base. The options pointed towards the base. The 50 exponential moving average is a favorite of ours. And there was nothing, it was a sell the rumor, potentially buy the fact. And that's what we ended up seeing with the Fed. Now we enter a point where we've made a bull trap video. And I know it seems like a week, but you got 8-9% kind of movement on the stock markets. There is a very good case that you've switched sentiment, you've gotten in those bulls. But I think the biggest issue for me is where are these expirations exactly? We know that Wall Street plugged huge amounts of fear into the market, which caused small traders to open huge positions to the bear side. And they will usually be only 1 to 2 weeks long because that's what traditionally retail traders have done. But unfortunately, this is what happens. Retail traders get maximum fear. They have created more fear of something that isn't even an economic. I can't understand it. I cannot get why more fear is happening in this current sell-off than a pandemic where we shut all the economies. That was crazy. This was, you had something to be fearful about. I know in hindsight you think you don't, but over here, it's way less fear, in my opinion, than here. Crazy. SMH breaking out after hours. Yep. Jim says it may not do a V recovery here, but I don't think it will crash. No, it'll probably just pull back. And a lot of the time, the market will be waiting for things like this. Exactly. Media Lab says Friday. Well, this is kind of like free day. Waiting for jobs report. That's right, Media Lab. And Harsh Patel here says, hey, Tom, is 284 realistic TP for CRM near earnings? Ooh, that's a pretty big ask for it for Salesforce. 284 earnings is 28 days away. You're asking for a pretty large movement up. I think that's probably too much, but certainly good recovery happening here. Never say never, but we do have some resistances around that 250, which is probably where I expect it to be. Resistance, resistances, support, resistance, that kind of level. I am bullish the stock, yes. And Nima says semiconductors are sexy again. Yep. SMH. Semiconductor ETF, probably the best ETF that people could be in. And have a look at the monthly gains here. Oh, damn. If you picked this up back in 2012, you wouldn't have been sad. Some very nice gains here. 957% from the sector from 12. 823% from then to now. Some amazing gains if you picked up the semiconductors through this growth curve where semiconductors are in your fridge, semiconductors are in your car, semiconductors are in, I don't know, your chair that you sit in. These are the types of things that are probably going to happen in the future. Monica says, absolutely ridiculous fear mongering. And then Finken says, pretty effective too. Lots of people folded. Yeah, well, a lot of people, what they do, they sold all their positions. They put covered hedges. I was watching somebody and I thought they were pretty good. And then I saw them hedging for multi months at massive cost to them on the day before the Fed. And I mean massive cost to them. I was surprised. I was surprised they would do that. Durgesh says $2 NDX ramping up on the futures. Tom, can we have a look at it? Yep. We can check it out. Doesn't change our opinion. We're looking for the turnaround story. We obviously have hit the first 15,000 here, but we have to find the US 500 high. So 45.50, that's our first level. We're in the green zone, and the futures contract of the Nasdaq is going high. And remember, this is futures. So at this stage, it's after hours. Nice earnings here from the big Googs. And Google has also split 20-1. That's the big news here. So we're moving a little bit higher, 15.2 maybe. That will probably coincide around that 4,600 for the NAS. But sorry, 4,600 for the SPX. But that's what I want. I want to see weekly 20, and we've just hit it. Weekly 20 into 4,600. Remember, there's our full movement capability, which points to 4,600. That's coming off the base. For me, there was no reason not to potentially scale off around this area. So that's me kind of scaled my day trades. And now we move towards, where do we see the weakness? There will be weakness. You don't just have a rocket ship going up all the time. You did here. I don't know about it over here. Earnings is holding solid though. That's right, PS3. It's buy the rumor, sell the fact. Watch out for the dump on Google when it splits. I've noticed Wall Street likes to dump splits on retail the first few days. Of course, I've maintained that for every single time we've seen a split. It's a buy the rumor, sell the fact. All right, let's move over to the crypto markets here. Daesh, just really with the US 100, it's great for investors, fantastic. Just watch that US 500 and coincide that. So let's look at the crypto market. What's going on? It had a nice little move up here, hit the stupid daily 20 moving average and sold immediately off it, which kind of annoys me because that's what we need to breach. You know, this is the market we need some recovery in. What is this? I mean, this is just hideous. From top to bottom, we're talking about 52% down to the bows. Oh, that's so bad. This crypto market looks stupid. NFTs. I blame NFTs for ruining our market here, if you're a coin market person, because I know they're part of the whole network, but NFTs took away all the free little cash. All the FOMO cash went over to the NFT project rather than coming over here, which is where we need it. These sweet BTCs, you know, buying that up and buying whatever happened to Bitcoin. It's uncool now. So 20 moving average, unfortunately, wasn't breached, and that keeps us in this downtrend at this stage. And Ethereum, we theorized that would be the stronger of the two coins. I guess it has been. Main reason is it kind of looks like the stock market, really. It was an improving base formation. We had higher lows, and then obviously the equal kind of resistance. We breached through. And look, it looks at this stage like Ethereum, you know, could be moving towards that 3,000. So this is still probably the better of the two. BTC shorts, we'll take a quick look there. Still declining. Good news again for buyers of the market. The FUD seemed to hit pretty real points for Bitcoin the other day and the crypto market. I saw people calling $3,000, $10,000. And it wasn't just a few, it was many people getting that massive fear going on. And often investors, we've seen this before over here. Oh, it's the end of the world. It's going to die. I mean, maybe it will one day, but I still think there's a bit of a rally left in it. It hasn't actually had a rally. That's the first time that this particular coin market hasn't really seen an epic nice rally. I mean, we saw that big fall off, but even then we got a decent percentage rally. Here was the only one. And then ever since then, it's been very weak rallies, very shallow. Somebody here saying NFTs are crazy. Azuki now 50K in a week. It's just a ninja picture, no roadmap. But what about the seeds on the seeds on the seeds on the, what do they call it? Mints on the mints on the mints. That's what we need. Market still running after hours here. 15,145, 4560. Ooh, 4,600 might happen in the futures market. So remember, the only way you can short markets like this, wait for the turnaround story. Yes, you've got key levels. Yes, you've got a highlight zone. I'll put the highlight zone in now. So you can get the little brush, go to the rectangle tool, get 4,600, get 4,550, bring that across, and there's your highlighted area. So this becomes the area where you're looking for turnaround stories. NVIDIA pumping. Let's have a look. .41% after hours, post 257. Nice. PayPal below the low of 24th of Jan. Ouch. Yeah. See you, Darth. Catch you, mate. Harsh Patel says, Tom, BTC hasn't had a rally because this time I invested in it for the first time. Are you saying you're bad luck? Are you saying you're bad luck? And Koa says, NFTs are a great technology being used for something extremely stupid. Yes. And Michael H says, did you see the new crypto commercial with Tom Brady and his wife? No. I didn't even know Tom Brady knew what an NFT was. I guess actually everyone in sports knows what it is because it came into sports cards first. Tom, can you do some TA on crowd? Yeah. My favorite sectors. Oh, yeah, net. Go. How much is that up now from the base, actually? Yep, I do love my cybersecurity. So crowd here, still relatively priced better than I guess the others. Net, obviously, the more hyper version of it. TA here on crowd is just pretty much going through these. I'm actually liking this one here as a potential breakout that we've got occurring. 20 moving average also slightly snapped off. Hard to go negative on a stock like this at this stage. But the bearish kind of candle, bull closed above, fantastic. And the 20 moving average also closed above. And it's sitting on support. Let's have a look at the weekly. Just get a bit of an idea of how it's been bulling up. Again, like the rest of the market, looks okay. And price-wise, it's not too bad. It's 63% under. But we do need to remember this stock started selling off in November. So it started selling off well before the rest of the market. So it had some doldrums. And by the time the rest of the market was selling off, guess what? It was already sitting on support. So that's why this has not bounced that much. It's not part of the broad-based sell-off like a net. Net was doing really well. It was selling off early as well, but it was still doing really well. It's got that elasticity. Crowd hasn't been cool for a while in comparison to net. And all that price elasticity, if you look at it, some of the best stocks, some of the best performing things have that price elasticity in them. Post-market 2970 here for Google. So it's sitting on that resistance into the split. All right, well, we'll close it up there. 4560 here futures, 15,149 for the Nasdaq. They continue to rip into the post earnings. Earnings were good for the majority of the larger companies. Still getting a big beat history in terms of how the earnings are looking, which is good. And we'll look for turnarounds in the next session. So I think all of these session highs that we've just reached after the hours, we're getting very close to exactly where we expect the bears to have a bit of a fight here. And you don't just see a vertical jump up in markets. It doesn't just go bull, 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 bull. It's usually bull, 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 and then a little bit of bear, and then we'll find out whether it goes bull again. But yeah, we're right around that level. 4,600 incoming, 4,550 hit. Good luck out there, everybody. Take a good day, and hopefully you're happy with some of the returns. And this just shows again, time and time again, why if everybody is bearish on the market, sometimes you need to be a little bit bullish. And you need to look through the crap and understand, is this a controllable situation? Is it a black swan event? And more importantly, what are the actual fundamentals? You know, sometimes just go do the basics. Don't understand every fundamental, but do the basics. Thanks so much. Bye for now. Gary says, when you say turnaround, sorry, we mean downtrend, a downside retest, correct? I don't mean downside retest. I just mean like this. We don't necessarily know it's going here. We'll have to look at the options and everything else. But this is the type of turnaround. It's just really wiping off a few days. Because unfortunately, this was resistance. It's going to act as support. So if you do see a turnaround, where's the logical conclusion for it to go? Here, then it has a war between the bulls and the bears. And then if the bears win and they push it underneath here, then yes, most likely here or lower. So that's your next critical zone. Where you were 2 days ago becomes the next critical zone. Stock split? Absolutely. Thanks very much. Thanks for the likes, guys, and thanks for the subscribe. See you soon.